Hi, it's Sylvester, and I came out as trans in 2018. So I have been aware of my transness for many years now, but up until very, very, very recently, I have not been able to truthfully say that I'm proud to be trans. I can now say that I am proud. I'm proud to be a trans man. I'm proud to be a man who is assigned female at birth. I mean, I'm still not going to go around telling every single person I meet that I'm trans because I fear transphobia and I fear people's judgment and I would fear for my safety if I were to do that. But I am proud to be a trans person, and I know that if I had heard myself say that a year ago, I would have been shocked because for a long time I was not proud. For a long time I was ashamed to be trans. I mean, I would still talk about it openly on the internet, and like I didn't try to hide it necessarily. I mean, I guess I did try to hide it because I tried really, really hard to be able to pass as a cisgendered man, and so I guess in a way that's me trying to hide my transness. Like one of my worst fears was being visibly trans for the rest of my life. I really didn't want people to look at me and know that I was trans. And a lot of that came from internalized transphobia. A lot of that came from a fear of judgment and a fear of other people's transphobia. But for the most part, I was ashamed to be a man who is assigned female at birth because to me, being trans was not something to be proud of. To me, being trans meant suffering. And you can probably pick up on that if you were to watch some of my older videos where I talk about being trans. I really put an emphasis on how much suffering there is when you are trans. And I know that not all trans people experience gender dysphoria, but I personally have dealt with a lot of pretty severe gender dysphoria. And that's a form of suffering. You know, gender dysphoria felt like a sickness and something that I had to struggle with. And so to me, being trans meant being dysphoric, which meant struggling, which meant suffering. And so I didn't know why anybody would be proud to suffer. To me, it felt like if somebody were to say, I'm proud to have cancer. And I know I'm comparing transness to having cancer, which is not cool, but like that's how it felt. It felt like, you know, being proud of something that was hurting you, being proud of something that was, again, a sickness, because that's what it felt like to me. It felt like being trans was essentially an illness that I had to struggle with and deal with. And I suppose there are people out there who have cancer who are proud to say that they have cancer, but like that the point is it sounds weird for a person to be like, I'm proud to have cancer, you know, because it's like why would you be proud of that? Like there's no shame in having cancer, you know. Like I didn't think that trans people should be ashamed of being trans. I didn't think that they should hate themselves, and I definitely thought that trans people should have basic human rights, and I thought that trans people should be accepted and not judged and not hated. And so like I wasn't outwardly transphobic, but it still felt weird for somebody to say they were proud of something that was causing them so much pain, right? And again, I am sorry for comparing transness to cancer, but it kind of did sort of feel like that in a way because I suffered immensely, and it felt weird to be proud of something like that. And now I realize that you can be, and you should be proud of your identity, even if it's something that causes you pain. You know, like if you are a person who experiences a lot of racism, like that's pain, that's suffering, but you still should be proud to be the race that you are. Or if you're a woman, like there's pain and suffering in dealing with sexism. and all that comes along with being a woman, all the pain and suffering that can come along with being a woman, but you should still be proud to be a woman. And so just because transness can be painful because of the transphobia and because of the gender dysphoria and because of, all of the other things in our society that make us feel like we don't belong and like we're not normal, like all of the reasons why being trans is painful, is it just gives you more reason to be proud, because it means that you are strong. It means that you are capable. It means that you are resilient. It means that your identity causes you pain, but you're not going to abandon your identity just because it's painful. You're going to be proud and stand up for yourself and love yourself even if society tells you not to. And so it feels really good, is what I'm trying to say, is that I can finally say that I'm proud to be trans. I really am. It's not an easy thing to be, and I think, like, a part of me probably felt like I didn't think trans people should be proud to be trans. I mean, I did. It's not that I thought they shouldn't be proud to be trans. It's more that I thought that society sees trans pride and mistakes that for glorifying the trans experience. Like if all these trans people are standing up saying, I love being trans, I'm so proud to be trans, then that's going to send the message that being trans is just this fun, cool, trendy thing that like everyone should be, like, hey, everyone jump on the transgender train. It's fun. It's cool. I love it. But if trans people emphasize their pain more, then it would prove, I guess, to transphobes that, this was my line of thinking. I realize that I'm wrong now, but like I thought it would prove to transphobes that being trans is not just a trend. It's not just something that we do because everyone else is doing it and it seems like fun. If I sat here and talked about how much it sucks to be trans, I thought that would prove to transphobes that I really am trans, because if I hate being trans so much, and if it was a choice, then I just choose to not be trans, right? But if I was sitting here talking about how much I love being trans, then it would give transphobes the wrong idea and make them think that I just chose to be trans because it seemed like fun, which is like it's really dumb, but that's just the way that I kind of thought. Now I realize that I don't owe transphobes anything. It doesn't matter if people think that I just chose to be trans because it seemed like a fun thing to do. It doesn't matter what other people think. What matters is that by me emphasizing the pain and not spending enough time thinking about the glory and like the good things about being trans, and not thinking enough about how much I should love myself for being trans, not just in spite of my transness, but because of my transness, and I should be proud, and I should stand here and stand tall, and again be proud of myself and be proud of my transness, in spite of what transphobes might think, in spite of the judgment that might cause me to have to deal with. Like I did deal with a lot of shame. I was really ashamed because I wanted to be normal, quote unquote. I wanted to just be a cisgendered man. I would cry because I just wanted so badly to be a cisgendered man, and it bothered me that people couldn't see that. It bothered me that people thought that I was just some trans trender who just like wanted to cosplay as a dude for a while. It bothered me that people didn't see how badly I wanted society to perceive me as a man, a real man, And when I say real, I do mean cisgender because that's what society told me real men were. And so I just wanted to be a real man, like Pinocchio wanting to be a real boy, like I wanted to be a real boy, you know, and I wanted it so bad and I knew I could never really have it. And that hurt me so bad because all I wanted was to just be normal. I just wanted to be a man, not a trans man, just a man, you know? And like, yeah, I wanted to be a man without having to fight for the right to be seen as the man that I am. And being trans means that you have to fight. Being trans means that you have to try to get people to see who you really are. And then a lot of people will refuse to see it. And it's so incredibly frustrating, and it makes you feel so small, and it makes you feel so helpless because all you want is to just be seen as the gender that you are. And yeah, it's just really, really tough out here. It's just tough. Being trans is really tough. I was not prepared for it. I was not ready to deal with the pain of being trans when I came out. I mean, I'd been dealing with gender dysphoria my entire life. I just didn't have a name for it. I just didn't recognize that that's what it was. And I pushed it down and I was ashamed of it and I tried to combat it. But, you know, once I actually realized what it was and put a name to it, I didn't realize how much pain it had been causing me and how much pain I would probably be in for the rest of my life because there's not like no matter how many surgeries you have and no matter whether you're on hormone replacement therapy, you know, no matter what you do, sometimes there's always going to be a little bit of gender dysphoria there, you know. And you know, it's some days I find it hard seeing myself as a man, and that really trips me up because it is like it doesn't matter if everybody else in the world sees me as a man. It doesn't matter if when I walk down the street people assume I'm a man. It doesn't matter if I look like a man and sound like a man. And you know, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, if I don't see myself as a man, that's the most painful thing in the world. And so I was really ashamed of my genitals because they were a constant reminder to me that I wasn't quote unquote a real man. It was a constant reminder to me that I was trans. And so I hated my genitals for a long time, and I'm just now beginning to work through that and to learn to love what's between my legs. Like, I know this is too much information, but you know, it's part of the gender dysphoria, part of the trans experience is that oftentimes we trans people will kind of hate our genitals because they are a reminder to us that we were born assigned a different gender than what we are, and it's just painful. And so I'm just now starting to learn to love my body the way that it is, and it's hard. It's really, really hard. And there's other things that cause me gender dysphoria. Like sometimes I feel like my voice is still too high, and sometimes I feel like I talk like a girl, quote unquote, or like I have, you know, girly mannerisms. And, you know, sometimes I get ashamed of the fact that I'm into quote unquote girly stuff. Like I like chick flicks and I like the color pink and purple and I like pretty sparkly things and I like women's fashion and I like all sorts of stuff that men aren't supposed to be into. And so that causes me a lot of gender dysphoria, but I can't help what I like. I can't just pretend that I'm not into this stuff because like these are just my interests. This is the stuff that brings me joy. It's the stuff that I like. You know, I can't stop myself from liking the movie Mean Girls just because I'm a man. I can pretend I don't like it all I want, but at the end of the day, I like it. You know, it's a great movie. Yeah, you know, you can't deny it's a great movie. I don't know what to say if you don't like Mean Girls, like you know. And I do feel shame still. And I'm probably always gonna feel a little bit of shame because internalized transphobia, it sucks, and it's hard to get rid of. It's there, and it's wormed its way so deep into my brain that I have a hard time not being ashamed. I have a hard time not judging myself for being trans. And at times I would find myself thinking to myself things like, well, I'm not like other trans men, which I know is such a toxic mentality, but I didn't want to be like other trans men. I didn't want to be a stereotype of a trans man. Like, I really wanted to dye my hair blue for a long time. But there's a stereotype that like every trans man dyes his hair blue at some point. And so I didn't want to be that stereotypical blue-haired trans man, you know? And so I didn't do something that I wanted to do with my body because I was scared of being a cliche. And like I didn't want to be a trans man who sits there and talks happily about the trans experience and talks about it and doesn't, emphasize how much suffering there is. I wanted to be like I wanted to bring the realness and be like, no, the real trans experience is suffering and pain, and I'm a big manly man because I deal with the pain, like I don't know. I didn't want to be what society thinks of when they think of a trans man. And that's internalized transphobia. It is. And I understand that because there's nothing wrong with being a stereotypical trans man. There is nothing wrong with being a trans man. And comparing myself to other trans men and trying to think like I'm better than them because of this, that, or the other is really, really toxic. But I am proud. I am proud to be a trans man. It's hard some days, but I am. And I am learning to love my body. And by the way, gender dysphoria doesn't mean that you hate your body. Gender dysphoria isn't something that you need to overcome by learning to love yourself. It's not one of those things. But you can have gender dysphoria and still love your body. You can feel gender dysphoria and still love the way that you are. And so I'm slowly learning that, and I'm slowly learning how to do that because it can be very difficult. But anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Stay frosty. Bye.